Hi folks, it's Terry Bozzio. Remember me? I used to be Terry Bozzio, and now I'm playing Terry Bozzio on Halloween. So happy Halloween, everybody. I'm here to answer your questions. Anything drum related, I'm happy to help you with, because the guys I really loved always helped me out and told me the truth. So be prepared for the truth. And let's see. I've got some questions here on this laptop. So the first one is, how do you get back playing again after a break? Well, you know, it's been 5 years since I played because of the COVID thing. So you know, Michael Brecker always told me, you never really go back, but you don't go forward if you're not playing. So I think that's the main thing to remember. You know, it's like riding a bike. Once you learn how to ride a bike, you won't forget. But what I always warm up before I play. And my concept of warming up is to try and do something that stretches my head, my coordination, that gets all the limbs going, in coordination with each other, all at once, because you usually don't have that much time. So you don't want to spend a lot of time on your hands and then go out there and realize, oh shoot, I haven't warmed up my feet. So what I like to do, and I have a book that's going to be coming out dealing with this. It's sort of like a four-way coordination book, but it deals with the melodic aspects of it, and it's a shape-based sort of book. So, you know, you can have any 2 points, like right, left between your hands, or left, right, or left foot, left hand between your feet. There's one line, and then between your right hand and right foot, there's a line. So if I say start with 4 beats on my hands and then move that around my body, I find that's a good way. So let's just do four notes with each. Okay, so things like that I do. Another one that I've done is like paradiddles, between, you know, just going around your body with paradiddles, like so that cycles. So the book will be coming out, and I have a series of lessons, you know. Can't get into it too much here because, if you really want to do something like that, you can get into it on Drum Channel on my lesson series. And that covers all the permutations that I could think of regarding this kind of approach to warming up and to getting some coordination. So, next thing we have is... oh, there was something about my devil's mask. Do I still have my devil's mask? Yes, I do. It's shriveled and barely legible, but it's in a Ziploc bag in plastic, and I still have my devil's mask. It's, the worst for wear and tear. Rubber, you know, is an organic material and doesn't last a very long time. And so it has shriveled and shrunk, and it's still sort of, you can see what it is, and that's the one I wore. So I've still got it in my closet, in my keepsakes. Now, what do we got here? Let's see. Terry, what is your opinion on the advancements of virtual drums and their effects on the need for session drummers? Well, on the one hand, it puts the power into a composer's hands, so it can eliminate us. On the other hand, it's a great tool if you're composing. Like I compose a lot, and I have a lot of my, percussion instruments sampled. I have my kit sampled. As a matter of fact, the last track I did was for Steve Vai, and and it was called Candle Power on his latest record. And I did that in bed on my laptop in Japan. I had no studio, and I had samples of all my drums, so I just, it was actually quite fun, because this is like backwards from the normal way you do things. Usually, if you're, tracking drums, that's the keeper thing, and everybody else can, overdub to the drums. And in this case, I was able to hear this completed track and do, magical things that I wouldn't have known were going to happen, but I played it like with Steve on certain rhythmic things that he did, and makes it more of a compositional approach. And yeah, that was fun. So, I'm easy about this. I have friends who, are not trained musicians, but are highly creative. And they're able to come up with things that drummers don't think about because of their indoctrination and training in drumming. And they come up with things that are very undrumistic, but really challenging and interesting. So, I think it's a good thing for people like that. And can I say, it puts some drummers out of work. And this is the way of all things, We don't really see steam engines, which are, beautiful pieces of black iron and brass and all the trimmings, When you see it, they're nice to look at in a museum. But, they went the way of most things. And now we have electric trains and diesel powered trains and all these other things. So you don't see the old steam engines anymore. And that's the way of life, We all have a cell phone, so you don't see those big black Bakelite rotary dial phones anymore. So, yeah, you either have to have something very special that you do on the drums in order to get hired, or, have somebody who is wanting a real feel from a drummer, and possibly a drummer who has this wonderful feel that can't be duplicated by a beatbox or something programmable. So it is what it is. And isness and suchness really are the ultimate authority, Things that are supposed to be, and things that aren't, they aren't here yet, or maybe they're never coming, or they don't exist, and we find other ways around it if you have that intention. So that's my take on that. Now let's see, virtual drums, okay. Terry, is there a missing person song that started from a drum pattern? There probably is, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. I mean, that was many years ago now. I do know that we worked out our parts, and I was able to go in and lay down my drum parts on Missing Persons tunes, and then check with the band. Does this feel good? Is this right? Do you feel any pulling of the time or rushing or dragging? And if everybody agreed this was good and really focused on it all by itself, then we started overdubbing. And the rule in the studio is whatever is the loudest, that is right, and even if it's wrong. So if you feel the drums not feeling well, and that's a good drum track because you've listened to it all by itself, then it's whoever's overdubbing's fault for either being before the beat or after the beat. And this is a natural thing. And what you want to do is just get it to the point where it feels right, and it doesn't make the drums sound like they're pushing or dragging, and the parts all assemble themselves together in a groove-oriented way and make sense. Now let me see here. Can you talk a little about singing? How I started singing and drumming. Yeah, I never did that until I think I was with Zappa, and we were working on a tune called Wind Up Working in a Gas Station, which is in 5/4. And I think from my jazz training, which is listening as you play and not getting confused by what a saxophone player might be playing in a solo, that ability gave me the ability to sing on top of what I was playing on the drums. So I was surprised that I was playing this beat in 5/4 and singing, wind up working in a gas station or something on top of it. And I found that I could do that. So Zappa started using me as a singer more, and that was fun and, pleasing to do. Let's see now. Did you count Zappa's more complicated polyrhythms or feel them? No, I mean, this is something where his polyrhythms, or what could I say? The correct word would be a superimposed rhythm. Like he had things that were, say, 13 notes evenly over a bar of 3/4, and those slower ones like that, they're almost 12 eighth notes, which would fit into a bar of 3/4, or would fit like what would it be? Oh well, at any rate, the thing is, you have to be able to count, and then you have to be able to find what the nearest subdivision of that is, and use that as kind of a guide point, and then easily, or in a relaxed way, try and smooth out the permutation that you're familiar with. Like, I guess it would be 12 16th notes in a bar of 4, and if it had, or in a bar of 3, and if it had, that kind of a feel to it, you could just, speed that up just slightly in order to feel 13, beats in a bar of 3/4. So, and then of course you can do the mathematics of it, which I did. I think when I got with Frank, I wrote, 5s and 7s and 9s and 13s and what have you, over, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 beats, and made my own little exercises in order to become, confident with those types of things. And after a while, you begin to hear them, and, they become natural Zappa-isms, and so you're kind of used to them, and you can, fire off what he wants pretty easily because you've become familiar with them. And that is the whole thing, Don't reject the unfamiliar, and don't reject the unfamiliar that may be difficult and that you're not really accustomed to. Just start doing it, and figure out your own ways. I have polyrhythmic courses on Drum Channel that I've gone with, and broken down mathematically so you can understand what's going on, and you can count, and you have to learn how a polyrhythm fits from one perspective and the other perspective. So if it's 5 and 4, you have to figure out how it feels from 4, keeping a groove in 4 and putting 5 even notes over it, or keeping a groove in 5 and putting 4 even notes over that. So that's how it works, and I have courses on this, which I encourage you to take on Drum Channel. I mean, why the hell did I do this if you guys are gonna, go on Drum Channel and take a lesson and do a course with me? You'll learn all this stuff that, pretty much everything I've learned, I've tried to break down to a very simple level so that you can understand and practice these things. So it's all there for the taking. Now let's see here. Talk about studying with Chuck Brown. Yeah, my hometown hero. Chuck Brown was really a great drummer. I'm one of the only students that he had who got to see him play, and he was just amazing. He was very disciplined, he was very strict, and in a good way. So he was very inspiring. He made you want to do these things. I remember one of the most impressive things, he had a band called the Spectrum of Sight and Sound, and it had interesting instruments in it, like a harp, and I know there was a bassist. I think there was Tommy Flanders, if I'm not mistaken, on keyboards, and He had a projection screen behind the stage there so that you could see these images as they were improvising and playing the music. And one of the most impressive things I saw him do, because he had phenomenal chops, was he could roll with pretty much any limb of his body. So he would start a left-hand roll going da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and then solo against it with the other 3 free limbs. And then he would do that with his right hand and solo against that with the remaining limbs, or do that with his right foot or his left foot. And, it was an impressive roll that he could keep up with each limb individually. And then he had developed the coordination to play phrases and things against that with his remaining free limbs. So yeah, he was just a great guy, and I credit him for what I am today. I mean, when you have a teacher you study with for several years, and he's a deep guy. He got me into meditation and, so many things. Helped me with family issues. You come in and sometimes you're just not prepared because you're going through some family issues or, what have you, mentally. And, he would always be there supporting me. So I really love Chuck, and he will be missed. Let's see. Terry, if you were starting out drumming and drum channel and other online learning was available, what or who would you gravitate to the most or get most excited about? And is there anything you would change or add to this online teaching? Well, for me, here's what I went through. First you learn the basics. I think it's really important to learn how to read and understand how rhythm is broken up pattern-wise, how it's counted, how it's subdivided, and then all the permutations, the note and the rest information within the subdivisions, Then you have kind of a framework to be able to put, what you do rhythmically into a context. You can memorize it and repeat it, or make sure that you're not missing one of the patterns that can happen, from note and rest information. Then secondly, I think, there's the physical thing and the chops, and that's another great thing where Chuck Brown was really helpful to me. He had specific exercises and specific ways he would do the book Stick Control, and that helped you to develop your technique and your control and your speed and power and stuff. And then I think around that time you start emulating other drummers that you think are really cool, and that could be very subjective. For me it was Tony Williams, Elvin Jones, and Jack DeJohnette, and then Billy Cobham, of course, is, I think, yet equaled, has not been equaled yet. He's just a brilliant, superhuman player who has the whole package covered. And there's more and more drummers. I mean, I could go on, but those are some of my favorites. And then you start to develop your own ideas. And the way I developed my own ideas was to steal first from Elvin Jones and Tony Williams, write down their licks, then analyze what was going on. Say, okay, he's keeping a ride beat here, but he's playing something between his left hand and his left foot, and occasionally throwing a bass. So I would, go, okay, this is a concept I've identified, so now I can make up my own licks. I don't have to steal note for note Tony Williams or Elvin Jones' lick like that. I can make up my own patterns between, the left hand and the left foot, for example, while I'm keeping a jazz ride beat. And then you develop your own sort of personality, because nobody's going to choose the same two things, if you take that approach. So, so that's how it started. And then I think, music is like a lifetime learning experience, and you can branch out. And for me, world drumming, ethnic drumming from anywhere in the world, you know, be it taiko from Japan or, I mean, every section of Africa has very unique styles of drumming and dancing and comes from their language, and it's just some brilliant stuff. And so, you know, I've had the luck and the grace and the blessing of being able to play with a lot of these guys, and you know, I really was influenced a lot from them. Mamadi Keita, who's passed now, was a djembe master, and I've got to play with him a few times, and you know, I always get something out of it. I mean, the idea of one djembe that has three really distinct sounds, that you can emulate those types of things on a drum set with our limbs, you know, instead of playing with, you know, two hands on one drum. You know, we can break it up between our bass drum and our snare drum and, you know, some other sound or what have you. So, yeah, African drumming, Indian drumming, Middle Eastern drumming, just from anywhere, you know. There, after the voice, I think percussion was the first instrument, you know. And, you know, it starts with clapping and, you know, moves on from there. A couple of stones together, some wood, what have you. All these instruments are classified. And I think the wonderful drummer with the Grateful Dead, Mickey Hart, wrote 2 books. And I really got a lot of a sense of dignity out of these books. You know, they connect drumming back to our ancient roots, and they explain the locations and the development of certain percussion instruments, and they're in a phylum, you know, just like plants. You know, there's this kind of plant and that kind of plant in biology or what have you, and things like you know, this developed into that, into this, and then we have, you know, a piece of wood with some strings on it, and, you know, that becomes a zither or a koto or what have you, and then ultimately that becomes a guitar or things like this. And you could see, you know, well, I don't know, there's just so many things, like they call them idiophones, and you can have things that are a lithophone made out of stone. I have a lithophone that Carl Orff sort of had built for his classical music, and it's like a little xylophone, but it's made out of stones, stone discs. And then there's membranophones, which are what we play as drums. That means something with a membrane stretched over a head or some kind of resonating body. There's all kinds of shapes of these things, goblet-shaped and cylinders, and, you know, they call it a merdingum shape because it's kind of conical. So yeah, you know, these things are fascinating to me to study, and I try and bring, you know, a lot of ethnic drummers into Drum Channel, and have jammed with them because I want drummers to understand that. You know, it's not just the American style of drumming that we should know about. There's percussion from all over the world. It's really interesting and very complex. And one of the most complex things is Indian drumming, tabla, and this sort of thing. You know, very deep mathematically. And yeah, there's a lot to be learned there. So those are the things I like to study at this point. And pretty much everything I've learned, I've tried to break down into simple terms and you know, share with all you guys. And I've done that in clinics, you know, for the last 20 or 30 years, you know, maybe 40 years now. Yeah, so check it out. Drum Channel's got a whole lot of stuff you can learn from. Let's see now. Also, Terry, do you have any plans to develop and release any more DVDs? Well, I've done so many wonderful jams, and, you know, at this point, I've learned what I've learned, and I try to apply that in a compositional manner, spontaneously. I love to improvise. I love to intuitively just make things up on the spur of the moment, see where that goes, see what other people are playing along with that, and then respond and react to what they do. Like, I rarely think, oh, I'm going to do this lick, and then, you know, suddenly somebody else in the group plays something that would make me realize, oh, I should never play that lick along with this. So it's this constant listening, focusing, and adjusting kind of aspect. And this happens spontaneously. Everybody I meet with, I just say, you know, and get to play with on Drum Channel, I just say, do whatever you want. I'll follow you, and you know, you can follow me, and we'll just have fun. And we make things up that are, I think, compositional. They're not just throwaway licks, you know what I mean? You listen and you go with or you go against, right? If somebody's doing a certain thing and they're holding on that, then that tells me, well, maybe I can do something that contrasts with that, because they're keeping the groove, and you know, I like what they're playing, so I'm going to do this, and maybe solo or do something different, using different sounds, using different rhythms than what they're playing on. Or I may choose something that I feel grooves with them. And if you're grooving together, that's all well and good. And you know, if it feels right, you continue grooving. If you continue to groove too long, then to me it gets boring. There's no activity or forward motion or development. So, you know, if I'm grooving on something, I tell them, you know, look, if I hold on something for more than 4 bars, that means you got it. You start solo and you do whatever you want, and I'll keep the groove. And there's, you know, I have a course called Composition 101, you know, that talks about improvising and talks about different compositional aspects and concepts. And I try and talk with my friends who I jam with on Drum Channel about these things before we go out and play, so they feel free to make up anything on the spur of the moment, and I will try and complement them either by contrasting with them or playing with them. And that's what it really boils down to. You know, you hear something and the choice is go with or go against, right? So it's just depending on what another player responds and reacts to, you do, you know, those types of things. So, you know, that's what I love to do. And all of the stuff that I've done on Drum Channel now for the past, I don't know how many years we've been going even, you know, are available on Drum Channel. My own DVDs, you know, I pretty much have said all that I want to say so far. I'm sure I will develop some new things and be coming out with a few more. But what I like to do is this improvisational aspect and this composing in the moment spontaneously. And a lot of that is done on Drum Channel. I have my own DVDs, or CDs rather, that I've done, and you can hear what I do left to my own devices. I have one that's called Reality, that is a bunch of drum tracks I did in '91, and I did different sections with a beatbox and you know, punched my way through and made these pieces with just drums, and then I overdubbed on them, and it's taken me whatever, how many years to release that. I think I released it in the past 3 or 4 years. And so that's what I would do left to my own devices, to my own drumming, which was basically, you know, groove patterns and things like this with solo sections or breakdowns or what have you, different bridges and you know, choruses, etc. So then I have another thing that I just did all by myself that is, well, it's got classical aspects, weather report and miles aspects to it, but I programmed all the drums. I have, you know, samples of all my my percussion instruments and you know, taikos and African drums and what have you, and so I just compose one note at a time, and that kind of tells me where to go intervallically or rhythmically to go to the next thing. And before you know it, you've got maybe 12 or 14 compositions, and you get it mastered, and those are available on my website in the store. So they're available as a digital download with liner notes and descriptions and how I approach things. And also there's some artwork that goes along with it that you can download all of that stuff and just look at it on your computer, listen to it and look at it, or whatever you want to do, read about it. It's all there on terrybozzio.com. So yeah, let's see. Now the next question is, I was wondering how you keep your hands healthy. Well, that's, how I keep my hands healthy is due to Chuck Brown. He taught me to release upon impact. And I think where a lot of drummers mess up their hands is by not releasing on impact. I grip the stick between my thumb and my first finger. I usually do it at the second knuckle because I'm playing a lot louder, and this seems to work for loud and soft playing. And then when you strike with the wrist or the arm or everything, you release your fingers so the stick is free to bounce up, and that's basically practicing that kind of stuff. Even if you're playing with finger bounce, I'm releasing the stick, motivating it with my fingers, but allowing it to bounce free. And then I don't have this shock treatment constantly going on with my sticks on anything, And so just this idea of having a relaxed fulcrum point and allowing the stick to bounce back, and getting behind that bounce and then, reattacking. I've never had any problems with my hands. I screw my hands up more by, doing something around the house, be it, or setting up and twisting something that's a little too tight and I can't unloosen it or something. Or, working with tools, changing the tire on a car, or, things like that we do. We have to be very careful about stuff like that. And I find that I've done more damage to my hands that way than I ever did drumming because of Chuck Brown and his sort of approach. And he got that from, I'm blanking on his name. The guy who wrote Stick Control, and for some reason his name's gone right out of my head. But this man was George L. Stone. Thank you. George L. Stone was the principal snare drummer and percussionist with the Boston Symphony Orchestra for many years and taught at the New England Conservatory, taught Vic Firth. And, my technique is kind of a combination between timpani technique, Roland Koloff, and Chuck Brown, so it works for me. I highly recommend it. But the point is, with timpani, you're setting this membrane into vibration, so you don't want to play into it and choke the drum. You want to get in there as fast as possible, get off the drum head so that the drum sounds and can resonate and ring. You're setting the head into vibration. So any contact with the head is anti, the vibration continuing. So, it's important to be able to release upon impact and, not hurt yourself while you play, as well as don't choke the sound. And let's see, next we have Rob. Let's see, when is the last time I played the Rototom kit? Oh man, well, I have a chromatic set of Rototoms that I've tuned, like the black notes and the white notes, for, I guess it's about an octave and a fourth or something like that. And so I played those at shows, when I do a big percussion and drums show. I still have those all set up, ready to go in storage at Drum Channel. And I'll pull them out every once in a while. But in terms of a Rototom kit, no. I haven't done that in a while. And I really like DW drums. You know, John keeps making them better and better, and their hardware is just ridiculous. I really could not do what I do without DW and their pedals, their hardware, all the details they have in their hardware that gives you all the flexibility I need, and the strength, to hold up the many things that I hit. And then, the recipes of the various drum shells that John has come up with. Usually the latest thing he comes up with is the most resonant, and that's what I love. You know, I want to hear a tone, and I tune my drums to a specific pitch, and I have a MIDI trigger on the shell, which will, trigger a sine wave to reinforce that pitch when I play in a place that has really bad acoustics. If you're in a really live room, like one time I played in Lyon in France, and it was a Baroque music hall, and it was absolutely reflective. I mean, if you clapped, it would go for seconds. And the reflections were just, it seemed like the transient of a drumstick hitting a plastic drum head was louder than the tone of the actual drum and the note that it was tuned to. So I had a very difficult time getting my point across pitch-wise in that kind of an environment. Had I had my MIDI rig, then you would hear a sine wave tuned to the note that I tuned to, the head to, and it would reinforce the melodic aspects of what I'm playing. And, I've met really great drummers who I know have heard me for years, and since I've been playing with the MIDI, they realize, oh, for years you've been doing this sort of melodic thing, but I couldn't, at this particular concert, I couldn't really hear that aspect of it that you were using because I'm listening rhythmically like a drummer. And I may be rolling more like a timpani player who does not roll in time. He rolls according to the vibration of the drum. And sometimes on a big drum tuned low, you've got to roll a lot slower. And it might not be in a subdivision that goes along with the music. And this is a feel thing that I developed in college playing timpani, and I use that all the time. So don't think counting notes or subdivisions, when I'm rolling on a drum. What I'm doing is just using the roll as a sustained tone, because that's our long tone. Okay? So let's see now. What electronic drum set did you have for Rhyme and Reason? And the difference in drumming from Spring Session M was immense. What sparked that change? Well, with Missing Persons, it was really sort of an interesting concept. We used really good musicians who could really play, and I think fairly complicated music within the spectrum of trying to be a pop band, which assumes you're not going to offend or alienate people by the music that you play. So I think we did a good job at that, and we had our 15 minutes, and it worked. Now I don't work within these pop music constraints. I do my own thing, and I'm very grateful to any drummer who listens to me and likes to hear me play. And when drum clinics kind of went out of fashion due to the depression that happened, or the recession that happened in 2008, a lot of drum companies and cymbal companies stopped sponsoring artists to do clinics. And so I had to get a booking agent and just take it to the public. And thank God I've been able to do that, ever since, except for the COVID thing. And so we developed. And by the time we had finished our first album, where I played live, and I recorded the drums all by myself and made sure that everything was perfect before anybody else started overdubbing on it. And then we ended up with a very good, constructed album. And that was that. Then electronics came in, and I thought I could get, the Phil Collins sound out of a Simmons drum set. And in fact, I couldn't. And I was there playing in the studio for the beginning of Rhyme and Reason. You're on a budget. Everybody got 1 week to complete, their part. And I was wasting time trying to play on a Simmons drum kit, which at that point was just a big piece of plastic with one piezoelectric, trigger on a 3/4 inch piece of plywood. And it just didn't work. It sounded like a broken machine. Any flaw was sounded like a terrible mistake, whereas drum set is, way more forgiving. But I had, chosen that route to go, more electronic sound for the second Missing Persons record, so I programmed it on a Linn drum, programmed exactly what I played live and what I would have been playing live just a few months later when we started touring. Because I composed those drum parts, I was able to program them and leave holes where a cymbal fill, a tom fill or a cymbal crash might go. And that's how I did it, because of the restraints and the economic restraints of recording at that time. Now, you could take your time and fool around with something for years, with a computer, but we didn't have those back then. It was pre-MIDI, and it was very difficult. So that's what I did, and it had a different feel to it. The time was perfect and all, but I was able to play everything that I had programmed before I programmed it and after I programmed it live. And I built my own drum set, my own electronic drum set there for a while, and used that on a whole tour. So, that was the proof. I think, Missing Persons got away with murder at first because we were very lucky. We released a Ken Scott produced EP, and it went to #1 on 3 stations in LA and in New York and in Boston. And then, MTV made it easy for us to go into a place like Lubbock, Texas, and play a 3,000-seat theater instead of some horrible club right away, because everybody knew us because of MTV. Now, a year or two later, everybody was on MTV, and there were people who could really sing and really play, and Def Leppard, Michael Jackson, David Bowie, were all had their MTV videos. So the competition was pretty fierce. So we wanted to do something a little more sophisticated and different, and that's why we took this electronic approach to Rhyme and Reason. And it's just a different animal, a different concept, And I'm all for change and moving forward. All my heroes, like Miles Davis, always changed. And it's a constant growth sort of process of, moving forward. And creativity should always do that, We toss away some device that's out of date for a new device that does even more, And that's the same in art and creativity as well, at least for me. Now let's see here. I'm trying to develop my polyrhythms, but I can't seem to get a sense for them or how to practice them. Do you have any tips for this? Yes, it's in my rhythm courses on Drum Channel. You can find the section that deals with polyrhythms, and I break it down big time there, So you can sort of approach it it's basically, if you have 3 and 2 in the same space of time, then, you could hear that rhythm, dum, da, da, dum, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 1, 2. So there's a pattern and a little sing-song. They call it a mellow rhythm because it's a melodic aspect of the rhythmic combination of 2 separate times to make a polyrhythm. So I think, I really can't get into it here, but generally you look at it as 2 groups of 3 or 3 groups of 2. And that's the same approach you take with 5 and 4. 20 notes is what it's going to boil down to, right? You can have 4 groups of 5, or what would it be? 5 groups of 4. And you have to be comfortable looking at it from each perspective, from the perspective of 4/4 or from the perspective of 5/4. And it's all explained and demonstrated, and you can get an idea of it on my course there on Drum Channel. So I really suggest you do that, because there's no way I can get deeper into it and demonstrate right now. So I hope that helps. And my little computer has gone off. So what's going on here? It's blank. You want to just yell out what the next question is?
Can you let them know when you'll be back? You'll be back next week.
Oh yeah, I'll be back next Wednesday. You know, look, I love drumming, and I love talking about drums, and anybody who asks me anything about drums, I will be completely honest and thorough with you as much as I can be. And so we're going to do this again next Wednesday, and I believe the Wednesday after that. So be sure to tune in here and you know, find out from me and other drummers, you know, what it is that you want to know. However we can help you, you know, we will do that. And most drummers I know are eager to share their ideas, their approach, their experiences, you know, their strengths, and you know, share the hope that if we can do it, so can you. You know, it's not like we're geniuses. You know, we just have been exposed to certain things and have sort of you know, worked our way through the pain of you know, internalizing them. For me, you know, I think it's really important for you to know that practice is not something you can do to say, feel good about yourself. Practicing is a process that results will come later from. So, you know, take your ego, put it on the shelf, and sit down and pretend you're an absolute beginner with any new thing that you learn. Because things that we learn for the first time are as hard as how you hold a stick when you first start, or how to play 4 even quarter notes, man, you know? I mean, probably most drummers have some sort of a feel for things like that rudimentary, but on the other hand, why should it be any different? This is something you don't know how to do. Let's say it's polyrhythms, which we just talked about, you know? Don't feel bad because you can't do it. You just don't understand it yet, and you haven't practiced it yet. And practicing is becoming familiar with something that we don't know how to do, right? So always try and practice these things that you don't know how to do. And accept yourself where you are while working towards your goals. And my goals are not what I can do. My goals are to encompass and maybe master something that I don't know how to do yet. Right? That's how we practice. So remember that, you know, always give yourself a chance to play and feel good about what you play, you know, just let go and let it happen. But that is not practicing. That's the opposite of practicing. That's more like performing. You know, maybe you know your band's material real well, or a certain tune you can play really well. Good. Feel good about yourself that you can do that, you know. But when it comes to practice, it's more of a sacrificial, like get on your knees and walk 20 miles, you know, that kind of a vibe, where you're doing something you don't know how to do, and give yourself a break, you know. It's baby steps. You know, no one would criticize a child who's learning how to walk just by, you know, because he fell down the first few steps that he took, you know. You encourage the child, and you have to do that for your inner child who doesn't know how to play this certain thing that he's working on and trying to encompass in drumming, okay? So it's just a little sacrifice, you know. Like for me, if I can do an hour a day, you know, of something I don't know how to do, that's where I've made the most progress in my life. Not playing 6 hours a day and trying to cover rudiments and then stick control and then your feet and then reading and then, you know, jazz studies or this or that. And, you know, the times I did that, maybe for a summer, once or twice when I was in college, I didn't get as much together as I did from just trying to do an hour a day. And, you know, I think just being good to yourself and saying, okay, you know, tomorrow's another day, looking at what you can do and feeling self-assured in that, you can take a little bit of time every day and work on something you don't know how to do and suck at it, you know? We all suck at something we don't know how to do, you know? It's no different for me or for Thomas or for any, Thomas Lang or any of the great drummers I know who are my friends. If we're doing something we don't know how to do that's new, we got to be gentle with ourselves and try and encompass it. And of course, the more you learn, the easier some of these other things that we try and encompass become, because they're based on something we've already internalized or learned. Okay? So I hope that helps. Be good to yourself and try and do stuff that's hard when you're on your own in order to get better. Okay? That's the concept, But don't judge yourself because you can't do something that you haven't ever tried to do. All right? Hope that helps, and I'll see you next Wednesday, folks. And happy Halloween. Go out and get some candy and brush your teeth afterwards. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Don Lombardi, founder of DW Drums and Drum Channel. Over the past 50 years, I've gotten to know the best drummers and teachers in the world, and I felt I had to document their proven teaching methods. That's how Drum Channel got started 15 years ago, and I've added to it every year, building a library with today's greatest drummers and the legendary teachers who taught them.
Don is pretty much a beast, aside from the fact that he has like more than 30 patents to his name and he pretty much invented the double bass pedal as we know it today. He's got these amazing real-world personal friendships and relationships with drumming royalty, drummers who literally changed the face of drumming forever. And it's not just professional relationships, he's friends with these people, he has been for decades. So that kind of access to those relationships gives Drum Channel access that nobody else has.
Drum Channel is about education and entertainment, with over 2,000 lessons in the DC Academy and 400 original shows in DC Entertainment. When you become a member, you'll be instantly enrolled in the DC Academy, where your learning journey truly begins. And I'll be there to meet you to go over the 4 areas you'll learn in. They are the DC Method, Artisan Residence courses. That's Chad Wackerman, Thomas Lang, Greg Bissonette, and Terry Bozzio. Also, we have micro courses on specific topics and the master classes from over 100 of the greatest instructors and teachers of today. The DC Academy has proven teaching methods used in universities for years. It's everything you need to know. You will learn how to play the drums, what to play, and why to play it. That's what really makes truly great drummers. Then there are play-alongs. I know that's the most fun. We have legendary original songs for you to play, plus over 100 more, all with drums hot and drumless tracks. And we're adding new ones all the time. Then DC Entertainment. That's a world of its own, where you're going to be hanging out with great drummers. There's the Chad Smith Show, Terry Bozzio Show, DC Live. There's great documentaries. And every week there's a new show with Thomas Lang, and a new podcast with Billy Amendola, and my Lombardi Live Show, and so much more. So if you want to improve your technique, add to your vocabulary, learn the Moeller method from the man who studied with Sanford Moeller, my dear friend Jimmy Chapin. It just doesn't get better than that, and it truly doesn't get better than this. There's over 2,000 lessons, 400 shows. Just scroll down and see what awaits you. If you have any questions, you can always contact me at donlombardi@drumchannel.com. I truly hope you become a member. I know you will not regret it, and there's a 90-day money-back guarantee. I'm not here at Drum Channel to try and sell you something. I'm actually a horrible salesperson. I'm here to give you something. That's the whole idea of Drum Channel, to give you the best information from the best drummers that'll improve the quality of your life. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a journey that I think you're going to enjoy. Please join me and everybody here at Drum Channel. Let's check out right now what some of the members have to say.
Think about how much you spend on a cup of coffee. Imagine if you could take that money and have at your fingertips the wealth of knowledge from some of the most incredible drummers in the world.
You are totally into the drummer's world.
You get to see these drummers up close and see exactly what they're doing is absolutely incredible.
You won't be a better drummer just by watching it. You have to practice, but you can get the inspiration and they can show you the way. You don't need to make the mistakes they already did, all the teachers. So.
It just really opens the whole world of drumming in a different way.
Nowhere can you find the variety of drummers and musicians that you can on Drum Channel.
I think it's a very inspirational way for new drummers to learn. You can't get it anywhere else.
It's given us this chance. So thank you to Drum Channel.